everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and this past week was full of new Apple news, and so I wanted to share everything from the new news regarding iPhone 12, iOS 14 betas, Apple Watch, iPads, and even more. And the first thing is Apple's earnings. In fact, Apple had an earnings call this past week, and they made $11.25 billion on $59.7 billion profit. That means $11.25 billion after expenses, which is a huge number, and they continue to do well. It looked like iPhone sales may have been down a bit, but Mac sales were up, and that makes sense given the current situation with people needing to work from home and things like that. And so in that earnings call, Apple said that they are going to delay the iPhone 12 by a few weeks, meaning that we'll see an iPhone 12, but we'll see it a few weeks later than we normally would. So instead of seeing it maybe in the late part of September, we'll now see it maybe 3 weeks later in October or so. They didn't give a specific date, but they did say it will be a few weeks later. So that goes along with what they did with iOS 14 this year, for example. The betas came out a little bit later. I would expect the same thing for the final version of iOS 14 when iOS 14 comes out with iPhone 12 around that time frame. Now, as far as launching these new phones, well, there's supposed to be 4 different variants according to all of the information out there, and Apple may launch them in stages, similar to what they did with the iPhone 8 Plus and the 8 and the 10. And so that time when they launched those phones, they launched the 8 and 8 Plus first, then they launched the iPhone 10. We may see the same thing with the iPhone 12. So for example, we may see a normal size iPhone 12 with a 5.4 inch, and then we may see the iPhone 12 Pro and 12 Pro Max. Apple hasn't said what sizes we'll see, when, or anything like that. None of that information is 100% confirmed, but they did say that it will be a few weeks late, and we'll probably see it in stages, like I said. Now, for those of you looking forward to a smaller iPhone, a 5.4 inch, if you want to see what that actually will look like and you have a larger phone or even a smaller phone, I'll link a page in the description below where you can see what the screen size will actually be. Mac Rumors created this, and you can see here's the 5.4 inch iPhone. If you put it right on the screen of the 11 Pro Max, you'll see that it's about the same size. So that seems to make sense. It gives you a general idea of what the screen size would be in comparison to today's phones. So it was nice of them to do that. And again, I'll link that in the description. Now, to go along with the new iPhone 12, we're expecting an all-new A14 chipset, and Mr. White on Twitter actually showed what that A14 chipset apparently looks like. So here are some images that he posted on Twitter of what it could look like that will be in the next generation iPhones that should look something like this, but with a little bit different camera arrangement. Now, almost daily at this point, people are asking me, when will iOS 14 Beta 4 come out, and also maybe iOS 13.6.1, since Apple stopped signing iOS 13.5.1 a week or so ago. And usually when that happens, it means you can't downgrade to iOS 13.5.1, and there will be an update. I actually expected maybe something today, but you never know what Apple's going to do. But when it comes to the betas, iOS 14 Beta 4 will most likely be out probably tomorrow. Based on what we've seen in the past, it will either be the 4th or the 5th. Again, Apple can change this up, but it seems to be on a 2-week cycle at this point, and then eventually we'll get closer to a 1-week cycle as we get closer to the final release. So expect a new beta in the next day or two, and of course I'll keep you updated on Twitter and here as well, and all the other social media networks I use. Also, many of you are asking me, when are we going to see public betas of watchOS 7 along with macOS, Big Sur, and Apple has never done watchOS before when it comes to betas, so it's hard to say when they're going to do this. When they feel it's stable enough that they can confidently say, go ahead and put that on your device, and they don't have a problem with downgrading. But when you have watchOS 7 on your device, currently there's no way to downgrade to, say, watchOS 6 without sending it into Apple. So I would think they'd want to work that problem out before releasing a public beta. So maybe we'll see it as soon as this week, or maybe we won't. But as far as Big Sur, I'm surprised the public beta isn't out already, so expect that fairly soon. Now, for future Apple Watches, it appears that Force Touch may be going away, and that was sort of rumored or hinted to when it comes to watchOS 7, because your notifications cannot be cleared just by pressing and holding on them like you could before. They'll open up, of course, but to clear them, you actually have to scroll up and tap Clear All. I really dislike that they've done this, but it seems like they have a reason for it, and maybe in future versions to go along with what they did with 3D Touch on the phones, maybe they'll just be a press and hold, because the press and hold does work when it comes to tapping on your watch faces and moving through them, but for some reason it doesn't work when clearing notifications. They could change that, of course, but it seems like future Apple Watches won't have that. But speaking of future Apple Watches, it appears that the next Apple Watch will in fact have an O2 sensor on the bottom. This is something I think would be great, to have an O2 sensor to let you know what your blood oxygen level is, and I don't know that it's difficult to do, but it would be nice to have it here. Since we can actually see what our heart rate is and things, I think you could actually measure that using the same sort of technology, and hopefully we'll see it in Apple Watch Series 6. I don't think they'll bring it down to, say, Series 5 or 4. That would be a reason for you to upgrade, of course, to the next one, and that's what I would expect with that. Now, other than the O2 sensor that I already talked about, it looks like Apple may be putting in a larger battery with the Series 6 Apple Watch. There were some battery certifications that just went through showing a 303.8 milliamp hour battery as compared to the current 296 milliamp hour battery. So maybe we'll see a larger battery in the next one. It doesn't sound like a lot, but any little bump in battery size is welcome with the watch to give us that little extra power. Right now I'm down to 6% on my Series 4, and people are having problems with their batteries, apparently with not Series 4, but Series 5 Apple Watches. Some people have been experiencing battery issues with the device that causes random shutdowns, or even have it report high battery levels and still shut down. So if you're having that issue, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below, and hopefully Apple acknowledges that and either fixes it with an update, or maybe it's a hardware recall. Hopefully it's not the hardware side and it's just software, but we'll have to wait and see for that. Now, according to John Prosser, we may have some new iPads arriving alongside the new iPhone 12s. Now, it's not going to be unheard of to see new iPads alongside of iPhones, but you never know what Apple's going to do. We could see a new iPad that's inexpensive, or a redesign such as the iPad Pro look, but for the iPad mini. There's been a lot of information about iPads lately. Whether or not it actually releases in October, though, can always change. But according to John Prosser, that's when we'll see the next ones currently. Now, someone also found a patent showing that Apple is working on possibly a dock for two iPads to work in tandem. So you could use them as maybe a collapsible computer, maybe have a touch screen on the top, a touch screen on the bottom. One is your keyboard or an interactive surface, and one is your touch surface or display. So you could actually use both at the same time. It would be interesting to see this, but at this point it's a patent. Apple is always trying new things, and once they find out that it actually works well, then they release it. So they're always working on different prototypes, but let me know if you think this is a great idea or something you would use if maybe you had two iPads as opposed to just one, or maybe it's a way to enhance one instead of buying a MacBook. Now, there was an interesting leak that came out of an old iPod Touch that had a glossy back similar to the iPhone 7 jet black one that I have here, or the 2013 Mac Pro. It looks like Apple never released it, but they were working on a prototype, and so these pictures give us a little indication of what the early iPod Touches could have looked like around 2013. So it was really neat to see. It was released by Donglebook Pro, and it was interesting to see that sort of finish like we have on the jet black iPhone on the back of an iPod Touch. I assume maybe they didn't do it because it's extremely scratch prone. So this one looks pretty good, but it does have some scratches on it, and it's very hard to keep clean without putting a case on it, and then you just cover the surface. So if it was difficult to make, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to put it on an iPod Touch, for example, because you're probably just covering it up to begin with. Now, it looks like we will get an iMac this month at some point, but I'm not sure that it's going to have a redesign. It should have a spec bump, but that's just all the information currently available. And then it looks like MacBook Air batteries have also been spotted being certified at 4,380 milliamp hours. It just means that Apple's working on the next MacBook Air, maybe with that new Apple Silicon chip in it, and then also possibly with a keyboard similar to this 2016 MacBook Pro, which is a butterfly keyboard. And so I'm not sure. I would be crazy about that idea. I personally don't mind the butterfly keyboard. I haven't had really any issues with it. I have had the spacebar stick once or twice, and that's it. But most people really don't like this keyboard, so to bring it back and put it in a new product just for the sake of thinness, I don't know if it's a great idea. Let me know your thoughts about that in the comments below, because this keyboard is not loved by many people. Now, someone found a patent showing that Apple is working on bone conduction audio. Now, that could be for Apple glasses. Google Glass did a similar thing with their product, You would put that on, and through the stem of the glasses, you could actually have it vibrate the bone above your ear, and you could hear through that. In fact, I have a friend that was deaf in one ear. The inner bones of his ear worked just fine, and he could hear using Google Glass through bone conduction, but could not hear through his normal ear because his eardrum wasn't there. So it could be interesting to see it working. It does work. It's a proven technology, and it would be great to see that in a future Apple product. Now, finally, Google launched the new Pixel 4a today. They launched it at a price of $349, which is very competitive with the newer iPhone SE from 2020. So I wanted to know if you'd be interested in a comparison with that Pixel 4a and the iPhone SE, or if you're just interested in iPhone or just the Pixel. Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you have to say about that. If you'd like to get your hands on today's wallpaper, of course, I'll link this in the description like I normally do. And if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.